Well, today would be discussing criticism and criticism as literature and its validity. In the ordinary sense of the word, criticism means judgment or evaluation. When we use the word criticism in literature, we have a wider meaning than the ordinary meaning usually associated with it. Criticism in literature is, in fact, a branch of literature itself, which consists of books on books. The purpose of criticism is not merely judgment, but it may be appreciation, evaluation, interpretation, analysis, or all combined. As we have defined earlier, literature is a criticism of life. Now, criticism can be called criticism of life. Literature interprets life, criticism interprets literature. Therefore, it is interpretation of life. The role of criticism is often debated. It is argued that a reader and the author are directly connected. The author writes for the reader, and the reader tries to understand what the author says. Then why should there be any intermediary? Why should anyone waste time on what critics have said about Shakespeare or Milton or Wordsworth? This is not all. In modern times, we have books on books. There are books explaining or interpreting what the critics have said about a particular poet or poets. Today, we have histories of criticism and various mind boggling theories of criticism. Thus, we often get our knowledge of a particular work of art at second hand or even at third hand. Instead of reading Milton directly, one is tempted to read a critic on Milton. Very often, the original work remains unread and one gathers a lot of views about a poet through critics. So much that a professor gives a lecture on a poet without consulting the original. It is time that a study of criticism should never and can never be the substitute for the original text. Quite often, it may be an obstacle in the way of the study of the original text by introducing us superficially to the content of the text. The objections against criticism are justifiable to some extent, but the utility of criticism cannot be altogether denied. Let us discuss the importance of criticism with the help of the following points. First of all, we should accept that a criticism is also a branch of literature. Literature works deal with life. Criticism deals with literary works. Literature discusses and interprets life. Criticism discusses and interprets life. And criticism discusses and interprets how the particular books discusses and interprets life. A piece of literature is microcosm created by an author. Criticism is a way of looking into this microcosm and discovering how the author has seen life and world. Thus, a critic is also like a creator who undertakes a journey in the manner as the artist has done. He discovers the same spots as the artist has seen and may even find new ones. Thus, true criticism draws its matter and inspiration from life, and it is also creative in the final analysis. It is important to understand the difference between the abuse and the use of criticism. When the reading of criticism becomes a snare, it becomes a serious threat. It becomes a snare when we are satisfied with what someone else has said about a great author instead of trying to read that author. In modern times, day by day, shortcuts are multiplying, and because of want of time, we are tempted to depend on them. Here too, we should remember that it is not possible for everyone to read all the great books. Sometimes some great classics are too lengthy and even difficult to read. In such cases, good adaptations are certainly welcome. They are not substitutes, but they are often good stimuli to read the original works of art. It is better to read an adaptation or a critical note on a work of art than not to read anything at all. If great epics like the Iliad or the Odyssey remain sealed to us, it is certainly a great loss. It is far better to know something about these epics than not to know anything about them. Life is short and time is fleeing. Leisure is even smaller. Out of this enormous mass of literature, we cannot hope to master much. It is natural for all of us to understand something of character, production, place, theme, and influence of these great works of art. Thus, such critical works can be both the substitutes in some cases and guides for the study of the original text. It is also natural for the readers to be interested in the authors who created these works and the influences that shaped their creativity. W.H. Hudson gives an example of Voltaire, whose total publications are more than 260. He wrote poetry, drama, criticism, history, and biography. For the layman reader, or for the lay reader, his works are so varied that he would seldom read all his works. But Lord Morley has written a beautiful book of 400 pages discussing Voltaire, his works, his milieu, in a very lucid style. If one reads this book carefully, it will give him a far better idea of his genius, power, limitations, and accomplishments. Again, there are many minor writers who are buried under the weight of the big names. They are real men of genius. Such writers have genuine gift for what is true and excellent. They emit life-giving stimulus. To read all these writers becomes almost impossible because they are to be dragged out of the history. Critics do this job for us. They are honey gatherers who collect honey for us and place before us a fine cup for him to drink. This is one of the most valuable service of the critics. Bacon said, some books may be read by deputy. This means that sometimes a well-equipped critic proves to be an authoritative guide to our understanding of work of art. Good elucidation and interpretations certainly help us in our approach to the work of art. Yet we should beware of some dangers too. We should not be completely dependent on the critic. Criticism should be used like a walking stick and not like crutches. The chief function of criticism is to enlighten and stimulate. A critic makes us aware of the beauties of the work of art which we miss. A true critic is a man of erudition, knowledge, and insight, and we can certainly be benefited by them if we make the use of criticism judiciously. Thank you.